All right. Okay. So, welcome back to the Break Free Find Joy podcast. And I'm going to introduce you again. If you've listened before, you've heard an episode with Veronica Lamb. And I'm just so excited to have her back on. We're going to do something different today. And I'm really excited, a little bit nervous, but I can't wait to see how it unfolds. We've talked about it a little bit beforehand, but I don't know her view of this at all. So we're going to walk you through the journey of kind of our friendship, how we've met from my point of view, and then see kind of what her thoughts were during these things. We've worked together for, gosh, I've known you for about 10 years now.
Wow.
Because it was 2015 or 2013 into 2014 when I went to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it just blows my mind because it doesn't always feel that long. And then sometimes it's like, man, it's only been that long. So I think I mentioned this last time, but Veronica and I, she is my coach and she helps me tremendously. And I didn't know how coaching worked beforehand. And actually, it's been fun to look back now. I can see that I was a part of your beginning of your coaching journey, but I didn't see that in the beginning. Like, you have always been this powerhouse rock star of a woman who is just like blowing stuff out of the water. So, like, looking back, I can see it, but at the time, you were never a beginner to me. Like, never in my mind were you like, oh, I'm just starting this thing. So,
Yeah, this is going to be a fun podcast, right? Like, basically, we're pulling out the thoughts that we had, right? And we're basically showing people retrospectively, these were the thoughts that each of us had and how each of us had different interpretations and things at that time. And I don't know, I kind of think of it, this is like a little experiment of pulling our thoughts out and putting them on trial, as I say, but we're doing it retrospectively and seeing how that has made a difference in our connection and our growth.
yes. And I love that. I use that analogy so much with other people now because again, you were one of the first people to put that language in my head of like, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. And like, that was mind blowing. It was like, what do you mean? Like, that's no, if I feel it, then that's exactly what's happening. So I'm just so excited. So we, for me, the story begins when I moved to, actually, it was right before I moved to Hawaii. I had just gone through a really bad breakup in 2013 with someone that I had been with for about 5 years. We had broken up twice. I knew it wasn't a match, but at the time, I knew it. I felt that this person needed something and I saw potential in him and I wanted so desperately to love him well and for him to see that in himself and then like bloom into this beautiful thing. That did not happen. And we both left kind of broken. It ended very poorly. There was some cheating and thing. It was just not good. And I was really devastated, brokenhearted. My cousins lived in Hawaii and they had asked me previously to move there. And I was like, I can't. And they're like, why? I graduated in 2011. So I'd been out for about 2 years and I worked at a factory and I was making decent money, better than a lot of my family had made. So the idea of leaving when I had my own rental house and making okay money seemed dumb. Now, mind you, I had just let go of that rental house to move back to my old town to be with the boy that then we separated. So it was very painful. And then my cousins were pregnant. She had her baby and he ended up getting, he had congenital heart disease. So he was flown from Hawaii via the helicopter to San Diego, and I drove my mom and her mom over to go see her. And it was crazy. But just being so heartbroken for them, coming back, and fast forward 3 months, Shalina reached out to me and she asked me what I thought about possibly moving there to help with their son, so she could go back to work. And initially, again, I was like, no, I can't. Then I did, because series of events just kept happening. And I was, at this point, I said, God, you show up here, or like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with faith. It was that ultimatum of like, something's got to change because I'm so far over it. And then you guys were doing the urban plunge like 2 weeks after I moved to Hawaii. So I know no one. I'm on the verge of letting go of my faith. And then I think, hey, it's a great idea to go spend a few nights on the streets with people that I don't know in an area that I have absolutely no recollection of what any of it is.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, go ahead.
simultaneously, like 2013, right? So I don't remember, what month did you move here to Hawaii?
Oh, I think it was June.
June. Okay, so I had just had my first child in March, at the end of March. And so I had a 3-month-old baby and met you, and all I knew was that Shalina had some, awesome young adult cousin that was like moving to Hawaii to help with their baby. And so you were just a nice young adult girl that was like hanging out and helping out. And that's all I knew about you. And then my friend, John Roberts, was doing the Urban Plunge. So Urban Plunge was like a missions trip that he had mostly designed and I had agreed to be a part of, and had a small part of designing the year before, where we wanted to give people an experience of like doing a missions trip in their own city. So he had previously experimented with sleeping homeless on the street. Actually, I think he had slept on homeless on the street like for an entire week. Like, he was a teacher, him and another friend, they had both had off for, I don't know if it was fall break or spring break, but they spent their whole teacher's break off of school sleeping on the street, homeless with nothing. And then he really wanted to give people an experience of that, of doing that for a night or two. I ran the justice ministry. We had a street outreach to basically the individuals working. I mean, most of the population would call it working prostitution, but mostly sex trafficking victims, like out on the street, trying to pick up dates. And so I ran an outreach out there. So we decided to give people an experience of homelessness, outreach on the street to the sex industry. I don't remember if it was your trip or if it was the trip before, Brandy, but we also had a portion that involved like the public housing area and getting involved with some young adults there. I can't remember which one of those that was. And on the first one, we had also done some sailing. We had sailed to a neighbor island, but I think on yours, there was no sailing involved, right?
No.
So yeah, so I had a 3-month-old baby. I was not sleeping homeless on the street, even though I had done it when I was pregnant the year before, but I didn't do it that time. But I opened up our home, which also functioned as a safe home for survivors that came out of trafficking. And so basically everybody on the Urban Plunge, including you, was spending the night at the house after your homeless nights. You were coming to my house to sleep over.
Yeah. It was insane. And I remember going to the first training and it was just like, this is kind of what we're going to do. And you're not going to have anything but like a bag, maybe a blanket, and then if you need your glasses or whatnot. And I had one particular aunt that was like, you're going to die. Do not do this. You are going to be taken. You're in a cult. Be afraid. And I was like, whoa, that's not the advice I want right before I'm going out onto the streets as a 20-year-old. Like, but I was very overly confident, I would say. I was like, stop. I was also in that stage where I was like, if it does, it does. Like, this is God's time to show. Is he here or not?
I like it. Yeah, it's funny. I don't even know if I told my family. There's a lot of things in my early years of ministry. I just didn't bother telling my family because I didn't want the fear, you know what I mean? But I guess it does feel scary to people. I mean, it's just a crazy idea, right? To sleep homeless on the streets and to have nothing. Like we couldn't take food with us or anything like that. Now, like I said, the first time I did it, I was pregnant. So I actually had some food to sustain me through the pregnancy. So I just had a little bit in my bag that was like allowed, but yeah, it's super minimal. It's like a towel. Yeah, I don't think like we didn't access our cell phones or anything like
No,
that. Like
yeah.
we were just out there, and any food, right, that you got was the result of somebody giving it to you, a ministry giving it to you, or begging on the street for money, right?
Yeah. And in that part, I was like, 3 days without food. Like, I can do it. Like, we'll figure something out, which was crazy to me because I look back now and I'm like, wow, I guess I had more faith than what I realized I had at that point. Because I can, especially now knowing, like, again, I didn't know anything really about the homeless situation in Hawaii other than it was very, very large. But again, like anybody from the States who might be thinking, oh, it must just be nice to be homeless in Hawaii where, you don't do nothing, get to lay it on the beach all day. That's wrong. Just so you know, anybody listening, that's wrong. Just wipe that out of your head. Um, so I don't know. It's just crazy looking back. And I just remember like now I see like there was so much desperation in that of like I just wanted a purpose and I wanted something that was real. And I was like, hey, this church is doing something I've never seen before. And I want to give it a shot. And then there was like 14 of us on this one, which was crazy. Like we had the youngest person who was on it. He was, I think, still in high school. I don't even know if he was in high school. I think he was 14. And then his parents, and there were like 2 lawyers. I was like, what is
Yeah, we had such
happening?
a mix of people. And crazy thing, actually, the mom of the teenagers just wrote me today and was like, "Hey, I want to get back into outreach." So yeah, she just reached
That's
out like
awesome.
before this interview and was like, "Hey, I want to get back to that experience that I had before." So yeah. So anyway, yeah, we like sometimes, we just need something out of the ordinary to shake up the mundane life that we kind of find ourselves in. And we've just got to try something kind of radical and totally new. So, yeah, that was the urban plunge.
And so during there, this is where, so I don't know if I'd even really interacted with you yet at this point, other than like a hello and at the trainings. But then we go and spend our first nights on the street, and I'm discouraged because everybody else is like listening to the Holy Spirit. They're doing these lead things and whatever. And I'm getting zilch, nothing. I don't understand. I'm pretty upset at this point. We sleep. I have no problems other than the cockroaches that were everywhere. And it didn't help that when we woke up, we slept under a bridge, I think at that point with cardboard that night. And then the next night is where things got really interesting. We ended up, that's when we did the begging. And that was, I thought it wasn't going to be that bad, but it was really, really hard. So since there were so many of us, we branched out into groups of like 3. So I was with John, and I think I've told you this story, but so I'm with John and someone else, and we go out, and I'm sitting by like one of the parks or something, and I stayed by a bus stop, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just ask some of the people here. I mainly went for like ask the women, or I pretty much just didn't engage with people unless they engaged with me. So there we're all supposed to be watching, but at some point John and the other person got led by the Spirit to go a different way. So I didn't notice. I'm sitting there very upset at this point. Had asked a few times for money, and I just got disgusted looks at me, whatnot. And then it progressed into I had two people position me that like, you help me, I'll help you type of thing. And the third one was, hey, yeah, like I grabbed my bag that I had, grabbed the strap of it, and was like, come on, you come with me and I'll help you. Like, and he wouldn't let go of my bag. And I'm looking around. Mind you, I'm at a bus stop and there's like 10 other people there. Nobody bats an eye. That's the first time I felt fear. And I like grab the bag and then I'm turning and I'm looking and I can't find anyone. And then it hits me. I have no idea where I'm at. I don't know where the house I'm living in is at because we were getting ready to move. And the whole group has disappeared. We have 14 people and I can't find anyone. So I'm just like scared and mad, trying not to be scared, and meet up with the people finally, not John, but I find our other people. I finally find one of our meeting spots and like, you can tell I'm about to break. And then the mom asks me if I'm okay. And I lost it. I'm like crying and I'm mad. And I'm just like, left me, like this happened, whatever. And she asks if she can pray. And I'm mad. I'm already like, I'm starting to get a headache now. I'm mad. She starts praying for me. And I remember her telling me that God saw me as like a white sheet. And I was like, no, you know, then, so that was the third day, because that day we were waiting for you guys to come pick us up to go to the safe house. And that is my first interaction with you. So I was very upset by the time we got to the house and we were going to eat dinner. And I just remember feeling sick and tired. Like I just wanted to go lay down. And everybody else is like in this great mood and being nice. Like they're tired, but they're good. And I don't remember if we went and I was part of the group singing and stuff or not, or if I went to go lay down. But I do remember then I think we were worshiping. I don't remember. Like, I'm so curious of your memory of this part. But then I remember getting asked, like, I felt really sick. Somebody offered to pray. And I was like, no, like, I'm good. And they're like, can we pray for you? And I was like, oh, you're just going to keep asking it if I don't say yes. So I was like, fine. And then I was taken off to the side and had a few people praying, and things escalated from there. And I found a lot of freedom in that moment. And there was a deliverance of like just this overwhelming spirit of dread, uncleanliness, shame. But it was so embarrassing.
So let me start. Okay. So yeah, I wasn't there on the streets with you guys because I had my 3-month-old baby. You guys came to the house, which I don't even remember if I went and picked you up. I was thinking about it this morning when you said we were going to talk about this, and I was like, man, I was still breastfeeding. She was pretty young. I think probably the oxytocin, which is a chemical that women always produce, right? And so I think that was still pumping through my system so much because it gets started during the birthing process, and then it continues to be released every time that we breastfeed. And my work in trafficking, we talk about oxytocin because it's called the bonding chemical or the love chemical, and it's released, and it helps mothers bond with their children. But we talk about it because it can also be released when there is a situation of fear, of violence, of pain, things like that. There's a lot of pain during the birthing experience, right? And one of the things that it does in the birthing experience, and I guess in the breastfeeding experience, is it prevents memory consolidation. So our memories don't actually get slotted into the brain. If the brain was a filing cabinet, it doesn't actually go where it's supposed to go. And so scientists joke around that this is why, we have this, because the human population would never continue if women remembered exactly how painful the birthing process was. We would never have a second child. We'd be like, screw that, don't do it. And so anyway, I was like, man, my memory is still, things obviously did not get slotted in all the places that it should be. So anyway, I remember you being at my house and everybody was there. And I think John or somebody came and got me to pray for you. And I don't know if I was nursing Alexis or I was trying to get her to go to sleep. I don't know what I was doing, but just said like, oh, you need prayer. And then when I saw you, you were kind of out of it. And I wasn't sure what had happened. I don't think that I knew about your experience being scared on the street and that kind of stuff. You just looked like that you were kind of sick, that you felt out of it, like you were suddenly coming down with the flu or something like that, like sort of glazed over eyes and things like that. And I think, and in my house I don't have 14 bedrooms, right, for all these people. So it was all these like mattresses and sleeping bags on the floor, right? So I think you were laying down in what I called the green room.
Yeah.
And which had the sliding doors. And I think you were laying down there and somebody came and got me and said, oh, we needed to pray for Brandy. Like she's not feeling too good. And I just remember you saying like, yeah, I don't know, something's wrong. I don't feel right. And maybe you said, I feel like I have a lot of anger. I don't know. I don't really remember. You were just describing a few things that were off, but it was as if you were tired, you felt sick, you only had like a few words, and that we needed to pray. And so I remember it was John and I praying. I don't do you remember if there were, it feels like there were other people there. I
Yeah.
know eventually
Whitney for sure
girls.
came in.
Okay. Yeah. And then there were some of my girls like living in the house with me because that was the purpose of the house. So I think some of them came home in the middle of our prayer and I told them to pick up Alexis because Alexis was crying and fussing, and told them to take her to her crib, But yeah, I don't know how much detail you want to go into it, but it was like, it felt, I mean, like there was a lot of freedom. There was a lot of release in that prayer time. It was really powerful. I think it kind of surprised all of us how powerful it was. And then I remember your face, your energy, your countenance, I guess that would be the word, just completely different within minutes, like after the prayer.
Yeah, it was the strangest thing. Like I swore, like if anybody else would have asked me in a different situation, like I thought I for sure had the flu. Like I felt beyond, like I had gotten hit by a truck and I could have slept for a week. And then we go through the prayer, we get this freedom, and I feel great. And I'm like going through this yo-yo of like, this is amazing. God is amazing. Like things are great. It feels so good. And what the hell just happened? This can't be real. Like this can't last. But then we went out onto the streets and this was my first ever interaction with just talking to the women that were out there. And for me, it wasn't necessarily just that. For me, it was seeing I could have easily have been one of them. Like it was one of the first experiences of me. Oh no, I forgot we have a time limit on here. I can't upgrade it.
That's okay. Well, we can talk now and then we can get off and then start it again.
Yeah. So it was my first experience of seeing them as people with lives and why they might be in this position, and feeling sad, but also protected that somehow that didn't happen to me. And then wanting to help, like just wanting to be a part of a healing process. Like, I don't know the details of the shift, but I just remember thinking, like, this can't keep happening and people can't keep thinking this is a choice in how it's happening. Because I remember walking all up until this point, I remember any guy I looked at, it was, are you my forever? Like, are you? It was always like that desperation, I would say now, of like, I just wanted someone to completely complete me, someone to love me, someone to validate me. And that was the first time I remember ever in my life walking around not looking for someone to give me that.
Yeah. And I remember you bringing that up. Like your eyes were big and you were excited and you were like, oh my gosh, like walking around now after that prayer session, like it's like I see the world and people in a whole new way. And what I think about guys and what they might think about me, like that has just, the whole paradigm has just completely shifted. So it was as if you just had completely new lenses to view everything through, right? That filter had completely changed for you, and that was amazing. And then the realization, and actually a lot of people have this realization, because I think people have this idea, whoever is having a tough time, so whether that be homelessness, whether that be addiction, whether that be trafficking, the sex industry, prostitution, whatever, they think it's like somebody else. And there's been a
Yeah.
lot of times where people have joined us and they walk away with like a hard, sobering reality that these individuals on the street are either just like them or just like their teenage daughter or their young adult daughter.
Mhm.
And they're just like shocked, like, oh my gosh, this could really happen to anyone. As opposed to painting it as an other people problem, a picture that's like far away in some different community. So yeah, that's one, I mean, it's one of the my favorite things of it, bringing people that are responsible and mature and really willing to see like how their eyes can be opened when experiencing stepping into the environment and really being around individuals. You see that there's much less differences than what we thought. But for you, that personal experience of having the prayer beforehand, experiencing a major shift in power and freedom and clarity, like a lot of things just felt like emotionally, mentally, even physically, a lot of things shifted for you within minutes. And then, yeah, that experience of seeing the world in a whole different way, that was really cool. Like I can still visually remember the look on your face. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like walking around out here and like looking at people and thinking about people, and like everything is just totally different in like how I feel being present in public and what I think the public thinks about me. It was totally different. And that was really cool. It was one of my favorite memories.
Which is so funny because that was amazing. And then every time that I thought about approaching you or talking to you, I was filled with shame. Like I didn't link the positive things with that with you. And like there, it was like I did, but it was in that you're up on this pedestal and I'm down here because I had to be saved from this. So how can I help or be a part of or do something or partner with someone who seems like this just light years ahead of me and doing this great work, when like I just had to get rescued, and like I'm just now realizing like I don't need somebody else to validate me. Like it just felt, every time I just felt that shame, and I didn't even realize it until years later. Like I just knew I felt off when we would talk, and the only way that I would accept any help or reach out or something like that, like you were doing different things, but it would have to be like you engaging me most of the time. Like I might like your post or make a comment, but when you would like try to keep the conversation going, I was like, oh, I unless you offered or pushed. I was like, I can't.
Which is funny because like in my memory, I mean, I think I don't want to downplay our ministry. I think our ministry has done amazing things, and we were really in an amazing season when you were here. But also my thoughts of myself, it was like I was just a tired breastfeeding mom, and John was like, come on, we need a place for 14 people to crash, and they need to experience, outreach. And I was like, okay, fine, like I'll be around, like I'll pray, I'll ask somebody to watch, my daughter, like I'll go out, but I can't do the super late, like I was like, there's all these restrictions on it. So I was just like, yeah, just a tired breastfeeding mom, just showing up and doing whatever I could, and then going to sleep when I could.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think I love that there's so much different seasons, like reflecting back on it. So if you are a breastfeeding mom or a new parent, like in that season of feeling like nothing, you're just surviving and all of those things, like just know that there could be hidden gems in there that you're not going to see or know that they happen. You might never know, or you might get a nice surprise a few years later of someone coming back and like telling you the impact, which is just crazy and amazing. So while we're doing that, that's a nice wrap up here so I can stop it and then we can start again.
Sounds good.